this is Haley Bernhard. This is my Assignment 7 Compass video. First, I'll talk about what excited me most in this assignment. One of the things that I was really excited to read about in our textbook was how many early Head Start programs reported having referred families to community services which provided support and assistance for the families of children and families who are English language learners or dual language learners. There's obviously a large community of people who are English language learners in Florida, so Early Head Start is providing really valuable service to those families by focusing on family literacy. I also was really impressed by the amount of focus on parent education and job training, which would create a stronger home life for the children in Early Head Start, while also giving parents the opportunity to develop stronger literacy skills. I also appreciated that they talked about the reciprocal influences created by early learning involvement to show that if parents and educators can pay attention to the cues and interests of young children, that reading can become a source of pleasure and excitement rather than a chore for children. So a lot of that is things that we feel like is second nature and pretty basic information, but it was interesting to see that that they actually did the research to prove that those reciprocal influences do exist and are scientifically valid. So one of the things that worried about me about what we read was, first of all, obviously the textbook was published in 2012, so I'm sure that there's new information, guidelines, and research available since then. And I wonder how Early Head Start's approach to early literacy and family literacy has been impacted in those 6 years. There's a lot of technological advancements, a lot of programs that are newly available, a lot of children with screen time and different apps that parents use to help children's literacy that may not particularly be as helpful as they think it might be. So it would be interesting to learn how Early Head Start has changed their research and their data gathering tools in the 6 years since the textbook was published. Also, the text mentions that that Early Head Start provides audiocasts, webcasts, and webinars for dual language learners. But I'm curious how they anticipate people will access these programs and these materials. Not every family has access to computers or the internet, and even if the program centers provide access to those computers, if families are working, I wonder if there are certain hours during which those families can access that information when they're not working or when they're on their free time. So it would be interesting to learn how they make accommodations for people to access those that material that must be accessed through a certain type of technology. I also noticed in the reading that that the study focused on maternal engagement almost exclusively. And while I realize that children are much more likely to be engaged with and living with their mothers if they are from a single home family, a single parent family. But it would be interesting to determine the type of impact that a father has on early childhood literacy, and it would be interesting to learn what was Early Head Start's motivation for collecting only maternal data rather than whole family data. So that's one thing that I would need to find out, is what kind of information was collected in terms of whole family data and in terms of different parental involvement in early childhood literacy. I'd also like to find out the results of the 5th grade follow-up report that the EHS-REP performed to determine the long-term impact of this type of early childhood intervention. And also, I wonder if they collected data from parents at this time as well, and what that data would have indicated. Again, I mentioned that I'm sure that there's new information, guidelines, and research available from Early Head Start in the 6 years since this textbook was published. So I would be interested in getting that updated program information. And I'm also interested in what types of measurements were used to rate the parent-child interactions in the follow-up interviews and in the home visits, as they would be useful tools to implement in my own daily life as a parent and as a future educator. My stance on the information in this chapter and in the YouTube video is that this information is not particularly new or novel to me, as I feel like this type of information has become foundational knowledge for much of early childhood literacy and development. I do, however, appreciate that this chapter goes into such detail as to how this information was collected, and I value the research done, which allows us to further build strong literacy foundations for our children and students. One of my next steps for exploring this information is what we are doing now, pursuing an education in early childhood development and early childhood education. I've always been interested in and passionate about this topic and about the ways that programs like these can help children and families thrive. So this educational path is definitely the right one for me to learn more about this type of research. Other steps that I could and will take to learn more about this topic are to read the book, Meaningful Differences in the Everyday Experience of Young American Children, or to explore additional research done, such as the 30 Million Word Project. In seeking out this additional research on this topic, research that has been done in the years since the Everyday Experience book was published in 1995, I'll be able to further my research or my personal knowledge about this to help families and children build strong foundations of literacy in their lives. Thanks.